Hello everyone, this is Maki. Today I would like to introduce you all to a brave warrior who protects our beautiful Earth. This is the mobile suit of the Earth Alliance Forces, the WINDAM. It's a mass-produced mobile suit that appeared in Gundam Seed Destiny. While mass-produced mobile suits usually play supporting roles, the WINDAM is an exceptionally captivating model. It is a mass-produced mobile suit that closely replicates the power of the legendary weapon, the Strike. I bet you're itching to get your hands on a WINDAM. Don't worry! By watching this lecture, you'll become an amazingly brave soldier. Right now, press the subscribe button to start the tutorial. Join me and become a hero who defeats the devils of space. For a blue and clean world. The war between the Earth Alliance forces and the Zap forces, which lasted from Cosmic Era 71 to 72, greatly advanced weapons technology. The mobile suits used by the Zap overwhelmed conventional weapons, prompting the Earth Alliance forces to add mobile suits to their arsenal. It could be said that the most famous mobile suit of the war was the GATX 105 Strike. While there are also weapons like freedom and justice, known as the heroes who ended the war, they remain unofficial entities. Some people even believe that freedom and justice are nothing more than fictional legends born out of the extreme excitement of the war. The Earth Alliance's Strike achieved many victories, and the data gained from its manufacture and operation led to the creation of powerful, mass-produced mobile suits. In this way, the production of the Strike Dagger brought the struggling Earth Alliance back to a position of strength through sheer numbers. However, the simplification of its structure to achieve wartime mass production resulted in lower performance compared to the original Strike. The 105 Dagger, the officially mass-produced mobile suit, also fell short in performance when compared to the Strike. The Dagger L was later produced as a successor, but it was primarily designed to retain as much of the 105 Dagger's performance as possible, while being produced at a cost close to that of the Strike Dagger. The Earth Alliance's primary goal was to mass-produce the Strike with all of its capabilities. The design of the WINDAM began based on the structure of the Dagger series. Shortly after the design process began, an international treaty called the Junius Treaty was signed between the Earth Alliance and Plant. The Junius Treaty contained a clause that limited the number of weapons a nation could possess based on its national power. This clause introduced the development goal of giving mobile suits more individual combat capabilities within the Earth Alliance. After the Junius Treaty was signed, it was decided that the design of the WINDAM would be thoroughly revised. By adding large thrusters to the shoulders and legs, the WINDAM achieved greater mobility than the latest model at the time, the Dagger L. It was also equipped with the Strike Kappa connection system, which had been established through the mass production techniques of the 105 Dagger and Dagger L. The WINDAM has also achieved a reduction in overall weight, allowing it to exhibit high mobility even when equipped with larger beam rifles and shields compared to the Dagger series. This weight reduction aspect is actually a bit controversial. The weight of the Dagger L is 55.05 tons, while the WINDAM weighs 58.20 tons. Looking at the numbers alone, it is clear that the weight of the WINDAM has increased. However, it's not unreasonable to interpret this as the use of lighter materials allowed for more complex components compared to the Dagger L. A small but significant improvement has also been made to the soles of the feet. By adopting a structure where the front and rear parts move independently, the WINDAM has successfully reduced the impact of ground conditions on its mobility. The arms, legs, and waist are slightly thinner than those of the Dagger L, further improving mobility. The WINDAM's armor is another point of debate. Official sources such as the Mobile Suit Encyclopedia mention that the WINDAM uses variable phase shift armor. However, in the anime, the color of the armor does not change before and after activation. However, some mobile suits use phase shift armor only in certain areas. For example, the Gundam Astray Blue Frame 2nd uses phase shift armor around the cockpit. It would not be surprising if the WINDAM had a similar structure. Also, the addition of thrusters on the shoulders was implemented in the Blue Frame 2nd before the WINDAM. The Blue Frame and its pilot Guy Murakumo, known as the strongest mercenary in the cosmic era, may have influenced the WINDAM's design by studying Gay's combat data. However, it should be noted that there is no official statement confirming that the data from the Blue Frame 2nd was incorporated into the WINDAM. In the game SD Gundam G Generation Crossways, released by Bandai in 2019, the WINDAM is depicted with variable phase shift armor. This suggests that the description in the reference material was not just a mistake. There is one notable scene in the TV anime that may support this. It occurs after the WINDAM is shot down by the Freedom Gundam. The WINDAM crashes to the ground, damaging its legs, and then its body hits the ground. Although the head is dislodged by the impact, the torso remains intact. Although near Roanoke, the pilot is ejected, he survives unharmed. That the torso remains largely undamaged despite such force could be explained by the use of variable phase shift armor around the cockpit area. Of course, this is my own interpretation, so please keep that in mind. In addition, the inclusion of shoulder thrusters prevents the use of shoulder-mounted parts from the Sword Striker and Launcher Striker. In the anime, only the WINDAM equipped with Jet Striker packs or the Multi-Striker equipped with large missiles are shown. Another Striker arm attachments are theoretically possible, but do not appear in the anime. With many improvements, the WINDAM achieved combat capabilities nearly equal to those of the Strike, fulfilling the Earth Alliance's major goal of fully mass-producing the Strike. This performance was on par with the Zaku series of the Zaku forces. However, being on par with the Zaku series only refers to numerical performance. There is a significant difference between the capabilities of natural and coordinator pilots. The WINDAM, supported by software designed for naturals, has the disadvantage of predictable movement. This is illustrated in the battle against the Minerva's mobile suits, where several WINDAMs are seen firing in identical patterns. The ability to fight on equal footing with the Zaku series requires that the pilot's skills be on par. Near Roanoke's WINDAM, which fought and survived battles with the Impulse Gundam, and the Zaku series had a different paint scheme but was basically identical in performance to a standard WINDAM. The Jet Striker equipped with his WINDAM had its limiter removed, a choice made possible only because Neo had the ability to properly handle the high power of an unrestricted Jet Striker pack. Let's take a look at the WINDAM's powerful weapons. First up is the Todesschrecken machine gun. The name means terror of death in German. The 75mm caliber Eagle Stellan mounted on the G8TX series is well known, while the Todesschrecken is 12.5mm. The significantly smaller caliber allowed a significant increase in the number of rounds it could carry. There are no records describing the change in firepower between the Eagle Stellan and the Todesschrecken. However, there is a scene where the Stelline bounce off the armor of a Zin. On the other hand, there is a scene where the Todesschrecken destroys the armor of a Zin, rendering it inoperable. It is likely that the bullets themselves and the firing speed have been improved. Also, this weapon is not only mounted on the head, but also on the chest. Next is the stiletto. This is a weapon with a metal blade designed to be thrown at an enemy. It is equipped with a built-in rocket booster that accelerates after being thrown. Although the shape is different, this weapon has the same model number as the stiletto used by the Brujuro Gundam. It parries the enemy and then explodes to inflict damage. In one instance, when used by Neo, it destroyed the shield of the Freedom Gundam. When used skillfully, it can provide an exceptionally high attack power. Furthermore, it seems that it can be used not only as a throwing weapon, but also as a handheld blade for close combat. Why the more complex action of throwing a blade to pierce an enemy was chosen instead of simpler methods like the Zaku's Grandes remains unclear. There is a scene where Kira, piloting the Strike Gundam, throws a beam saber to pierce an enemy. This action may have been inspired by Kira's piloting data. Next is the beam saber. It is identical to the one that Dagger L is equipped with. In the anime, it had little screen time. However, there is a scene in the movie Seed Freedom where it is used. The target was an older mobile suit Zin, whose arm was destroyed in an instant. Conversely, the Zin sword had to strike repeatedly to damage the 105 dagger. This scene clearly illustrates the difference in attack power between the beam saber and the metal-bladed sword. Finally, there's the beam rifle. Compared to the smaller beam carbine of the Dagger L, this weapon is much larger. Its destructive power and penetration have been greatly increased. Despite the increased size of the weapon, the improved performance of the WINDAM allows it to maintain higher mobility than the Dagger L. Only the beam rifle of Neo Roanoke's custom WINDAM has a different firing sound throughout the story. This can be seen in the battle in the Indian Ocean in episode 16 and the battle in Berlin in episode 32. In the Indian Ocean, it fires with the same sound as other WINDAMs. In Berlin, however, the sound changes. There are no records to explain this, but it may indicate an adjustment in power or other settings. Finally, the shield. It is treated with an anti-beam coating. The pointed tip can also be used as a piercing weapon against enemies. It also houses 2 missiles. This shield is also larger and more complex than the one used by the Dagger L, which adds to its weight, but the WINDAM still maintains its mobility. As I mentioned earlier, one of the WINDAM's major advantages is its ability to equip striker packs. So which striker packs did it use effectively? First of all, the Jet Striker. This is the most commonly seen piece of equipment in the TV anime, and it also appears in Seed Freedom. The Jet Striker is a striker pack that allows flight in Earth's gravity. Some sources mention that it was developed based on the film of the Justice Gundam. It is unclear if the design was inspired by analyzing footage of the Justice Gundam, or if data from the Justice Gundam was obtained and used. Just as Gilbert Durandal obtained data on the destroyed Gundam, perhaps skilled intelligence agents of the Earth Alliance obtained this information. Moreover, the instruction manual for the Master Grade model kit of the Strike Gundam states that the Jet Striker was designed based on the operational data of the IWSP. Since the IWSP is an Earth Alliance weapon, the reuse of its data is a logical development. The wings can be equipped with a variety of weapons. These include unguided missiles, air-to-ground missiles, triple air-to-air missile launchers, additional fuel tanks, and mounts for beam rifles and other armaments. Neo Roanoke's Jet Striker has its limiter disabled. There is a scene where it fights on the par with the Force Impulse Gundam. It also engages in a prolonged battle with the Freedom Gundam. Although it ultimately loses, this prolonged battle is remarkable compared to other mobile suits, which are often destroyed by the Freedom Gundam in an instant. Director Fukuda has mentioned in an interview included on the DVD of Metal Armor Drogoa, a previous Sunrise production, that the Jet Striker is an homage to the Lifter, an additional flying device from that series. Fukuda was part of the production team for Drogoa, which has a dedicated fan base. What's interesting is that there is a scene where WINDAM, equipped with a Jet Striker, is fighting in space. Among the mobile suits guarding the Requiem relay station is a WINDAM with a Jet Striker. It may be possible to replace the engines for space operations. Of course, this could also be a manufacturing oversight. Next is the Doppelhorn. Its name means two horns in German. It is a twin recoilless gun. The Doppelhorn is a striker pack intended for anti-ship bombardment and supportive fire. This equipment also reflects the operational data of the IWSP. Then, there is the multi-striker, which is also significant. This striker pack is intended for artillery-based combat. In the TV anime, however, it only appears equipped with nuclear missiles. As a result, it is often depicted in games and other media as equipment specifically for nuclear missile operations. A drawback of the multi-striker is that it has no built-in thrusters, which significantly reduces its mobility when equipped. In addition, many sources state that the multi-striker is difficult to operate on the ground. The wording used is difficult, not impossible. This suggests that it may be difficult to use on the ground, but not impossible. It could also serve as a mobile gun platform equipped with large missiles. In the Astray series, a spin-off, there is even a depiction of a WINDAM equipped with an Nile Striker. In the final stages of Sea Destiny, there are also WINDAMs shown without a striker pack. This may indicate that they are capable of sufficient combat without additional equipment. Some WINDAMs can skillfully evade the anti-aircraft fire of the elite warship maneuver in order to approach it. Depending on the pilot, the WINDAM is indeed formidable. How does the WINDAM perform in the story? In the battle over the Indian Ocean, Neo Roanoke's WINDAM challenges the Impulse Gundam. He hits the Impulse Gundam's shield with his beam rifle, drawing Shin's attention. Neo then hides the WINDAM in the clouds, dodging the Impulse Gundam's beam rifle shots. At that moment, Shin stops the Impulse Gundam in midair and fires. After dodging 2 consecutive shots, Neo counterattacks with his beam rifle. Observing that the 2 shots came from the same angle, Neo confirms the position of the Impulse Gundam, noting that it is stationary, and retaliates. This scene highlights the difference in scale between the experienced Neo and the still developing Shin. However, Shin narrowly avoids the attack. In an attempt to counter, Neo fires his beam rifle just as Shin takes aim, forcing Shin to dodge instead. Neo is able to control the aim of the beam rifle faster than Shin. This demonstrates Neo's faster aiming speed and skill differential. Neo instructs his allies to provide covering fire. Despite his superior piloting skills, he avoids fighting alone because of the mobile suit performance gap. The difference between Shin's emotion-driven approach and Miyu's calm, tactical command is on display here. A barrage of beams is fired, and Shin loses his chance to counterattack. He manages to follow Miyu's Windam, but is forced into the sea by an attack from the Gaia Gundam. Miyu successfully lures the Impulse Gundam into a battlefield where the Gaia Gundam can fully utilize its combat capabilities, effectively distancing Shin from the battleship maneuver. Although Miyu doesn't seek victory in the direct mobile suit battle, he successfully creates an advantageous situation for the broader battle. Another notable moment is Miyu's battle with the Freedom Gundam. This takes place during the chaos in Berlin, when the destroyed Gundam wreaks havoc. Miyu's Windam is not in an advantageous position to fight the Freedom Gundam. However, it manages to withstand the battle for quite some time, and even destroys the Freedom's shield. Observing the enemy's tactics, Kira becomes suspicious and wonders if the Windam's pilot might be Mullah Flager. Kira orders Maruramius to protect the Windam's pilot and quickly shoots him down. The movement of the Freedom Gundam at this moment is also noteworthy. While dodging the Windam's beam rifle shots, Kira rotates the Freedom, pointing its wings downward and causing the Gundam to dive. This maneuver, known as Unbat, is a recurring tactic in the Gundam series. It is a piloting technique that controls the movement of the mobile suit by swinging heavy parts. The Windam's cockpit has a blind spot at the bottom, unlike seat Freedom's wraparound monitors. Kira maneuvers the Freedom Gundam into Miyu's blind spot and disables the Windam, destroying both arms and the Jet Striker. Miyu looks frustrated for a moment, but remains calm as he steers. He first makes contact with the ground with the Windam's legs. Although the legs are damaged, this reduces the speed and the shock to the cockpit. The impact also causes the torso to separate from the waist. The Windam's torso appears to be less robust than that of the Dagger series, possibly contributing to the detachment. Ironically, this reduced strength helps save Miyu's life. The detached hip section then explodes violently. It appears that the main engine components of the Windam are located in the waist. A similar explosion occurs in the battle in the Indian Ocean, when the hip of a Windam is hit by the cannons of the Impulse Gundam. Did Kira understand the characteristics of the Windam? This remains unclear. This marks the end of Miyu Roanoke's custom Windam's role in the story. Subsequently, Chairman Durano's call leads to the formation of the Anti-Logos Alliance. Among the Earth Alliance forces that joins after Windams. However, there were no scenes showing Windams fighting alongside Destiny Gundam or Impulse Gundam. It's possible though speculative that this was done to avoid confusion among viewers. Does the Windam's appeal come across? One notable feature of the Windam is how different its design is from the Dagger series. This is purely speculation on my part, but it seems likely that the development was led by Blue Cosmos, or Logos. The spirit structure of the souls is similar to that of the destroyed Gundam. Additionally, the inclusion of shoulder thrusters is reminiscent of the Strike Noir. The Strike Noir was a mobile suit developed under the direction of Phantom Pain. It was an improved version of the Strike Gundam, modified after identifying points for improvement based on its use by ace pilots. Phantom Pain itself was an organization privately run by Logos. The body of the Windam is painted blue. This color fits perfectly with the name Blue Cosmos. In the movie Seed Freedom, remnants of Blue Cosmos are shown operating large numbers of WINDAMs. It's interesting that a group considered remnants can still field so many of the Earth's Alliance's newest mobile suits, the WINDAM. This is in stark contrast to the Zaft ground forces, who used older mobile suits such as the Zin and Yin. While the legitimate military force, Zaft uses older models, the remnants of Blue Cosmos considered terrorists use the WINDAM. If Blue Cosmos or Logos were leading its development, the fact that they have so many would make sense. Of course, keep in mind that this is just my personal interpretation. Thanks for watching until the end. See you next time. For a blue and clean world.